Hello everyone. In the last lesson, we studied the trends in growth of population. To continue with it, in this lecture, we will do the demographic transition theory. Demographic transition theory. The literal meaning of demographic transition is the change of population of a region from one stage to another. It means that the shift of population from high birth rate and high death rate with minimum technology, low education and economic development to low birth rate and low death rate with advanced technology, high education and economic development as the society progresses from rural agrarian to urban industrial. Well, in the present day, different countries are at different stages of demographic transition. Now let's talk about the three stages of demographic transition. Visualize the graph. It indicates the birth and death rate in three different phases. The x-axis indicates the time and the y-axis indicates the birth and death rate. Death rate is shown by a red line and the birth rate is shown by a green line. Let's begin with the first stage. This stage indicates high birth rate, high death rate, therefore the growth rate is low. You see, 200 years ago, all the countries of the world were in this stage, and then the race started. Some countries reached the second stage and some of the countries reached the third stage, whereas some of them are still in the first stage. In this stage, the countries are backward and indicate high birth and high death rates because people reproduce more to compensate for the deaths caused due to epidemics and variable food supply. This results in slow population growth. People mostly live in rural areas and their main occupation is agriculture. Large family is regarded as a necessity to increase the family income. Children are an asset to the society and the parents. People are illiterate, ignorant and superstitious. They consider children as God gift and there is no family planning. Along with high birth rate, the death rate is also high due to the spread of epidemics, hunger and low caloric food, lack of medical facilities, poor sense of cleanliness, dirty and unhealthy surroundings and low life expectancy. Thus, unhygienic conditions, poor diet and lack of medical facilities are the reasons for high mortality rate in this stage. This stage is also called high fluctuating stage because both birth and death rate are high and both are fluctuating. Sometimes the birth is more than the death or sometimes it is the death more than the birth. Now next we have the second stage. This stage indicates high birth rate, low death rate, therefore the growth rate is high. In the second stage, the country enters the phase of economic growth, urbanization and industrialization. The agricultural and industrial productivity increases and the means of transport develop. Education expands, income increases, people get more and better quality food products, medical and health facilities are expanded. All these factors bring down the death rate. But the birth rate is almost stable in the beginning. With the improvement in the standard of living and the dietary habits of the people, life expectancy also increases. Here we see that the death rate is falling down very fast because the better health services and quality food, etc. But people do not make any efforts to control the size of family, maybe because of the presence of religious beliefs and social taboos towards family planning. As a result, the birth rate remains at the same high level. Because of this gap, the growth rate is very high, and this becomes the stage of population explosion or the expanding stage of population. But in the second part of this stage, the birth rate also starts declining along with the already declining death rate. Now, here the decline in birth rate is due to the impact of economic development, changed social attitude, increase in women's status and education, and increased facilities for family planning and access to contraceptives. Here, one thing is very clear, that in this stage, the birth rate remains always higher than the death rate, leading to high growth rate. Now let's see the third stage of the demographic transition. In this stage, both birth rate and death rate decline considerably. The economic growth of the country increases, leading to high level of income. The standard of living rises, education expands in the entire society and opens the way to knowledge. Men and women prefer to marry late, their desire to have more children declines, it becomes costly and inconvenient to rear a large number of children. All this led to a deliberate control over the birth rate, along with an already low death rate, brings a decline in the growth of population. This stage is also known as low fluctuating stage. The advanced countries of the world today are passing through the last stage of demographic transition. Now let's see the demographic cycle of whole transition theory. First stage, high fluctuating stage. In this stage, high birth rate and high death rate are prevailing, and it indicates no any change in the size of population. The second stage, this is early expanding stage. The population starts expanding in this stage. The death rate begins to decline and no change in the birth rate. This shows a high increase in population. The third stage is late expanding. The birth rate begins to decline in this stage while the death rate is already low. Population continues to increase, though at a lower pace. Then the fourth stage is low fluctuating stage. Low birth rate and low death rate prevails in this stage. It indicates a stability in population. And the fifth or the last stage is the declining population stage. In this stage, birth rate is lower than the death rate, and it indicates a fall in population. This brings a negative population growth. Now next we see the measures to control population. The population is increasing at an alarming rate in the world, and it needs to be stopped immediately. Some measures must be taken. Following ways can help to curb the population explosion. We can divide it in three categories. First, social measures. Well, the first social measure is minimum age of marriage should be raised and firmly implemented also. The second, raising the status of women. Women are facing discrimination in many areas, and they are confined to four walls of houses, and they are still confined to rearing and bearing of children. Women should be given opportunities to develop socially. Third, spread of education. Spread of education changes the outlook of people. The educated men and women prefer to delay marriage and adopt small family norms. Next, we have the economic measures. First one is provide more employment opportunities. It is very important for the government to raise the employment. It will lead to increase in income and would improve the standard of living of the people, and they will adopt small family norms. Next is standard of living. In order to maintain their high standard of living, people prefer to have a small family because it is very difficult to manage a large family as well as the high standard of living. Other measures. Family planning. Family planning is the spacing or preventing the birth of children. So by applying preventive measures, people can regulate birth rate, and the success of this method depends upon the free availability of contraceptives for birth control. Next we have publicity and propaganda. The communication media like TV, radio and newspapers are the good means of propagating the benefits of planned family to the uneducated and illiterate people, especially in the rural and backward areas of the country. Awareness among people can also be spread through seminars, camps, street plays, documentaries, etc. Then we have incentives. Government can give incentives to those who adopt small family norms. Last but not the least is the employment to women. When the women are employed, they become economically independent and empowered. Hence, they have equal control on decision-making power in the family. With this, we conclude the topic World Population Growth and hope you all have understood. Thank you very much. Stay happy and stay healthy.